world has been moving. We used to listen to albums. I think there was 78, 33. So I got old school in the house. And then we got smaller ones called 45.
Yeah.
And if you stayed around a little bit longer, you remember them having 8-track tapes.
Oh, I remember.
Still got them now. Still got them.
Yes, sir.
And after the 8-track tape, there was cassette tapes. And I'm getting to that because there was a commercial by a company named Memorex. And Memorex had a commercial that featured a lady by the name of Ella Fitzgerald. Ella Fitzgerald would sing at the top of her lungs, and there would be a glass sitting there, and she would hit a pitch that was so high that the glass would just burst. And then they would ask the question, is it live?
Yeah.
Anybody in the house? Or is it Memorex? They were saying that the product in which they were selling to us was a product so unique that you could not tell if you were not looking if it was really her singing or it was on the cassette tape.
Right.
Is it live or is it Memorex? I want you to catch that right there. Now, you see the word Memorex came from the word memory. And there has to be some remembering. So the cassette tape was meant for you to be able to recall the stuff that you had heard some time ago.
Right.
I will bring you to me after a while. I know you're not there yet. So in this making of the memory, what is it that is most important about us making a memorial? I'm glad you asked. In the later years of his life, the great 19th century American philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson suffered from an increasing faulty memory.
Right.
When things would slip in his hands, he would simply complain that he had a naughty memory,
Right.
as he called it. Sometimes Emerson would forget names of different objects, and in order to speak to them, he would refer to them in the roundabout way. For instance, when he could not think of the word plow, he would call it the instrument that cultivates the soil.
Yeah.
More important was the fact that he could not remember the names of people who he was quite familiar with.
Right. All right.
After the funeral of his friend, the poet Henry Whitworth Longfellow, Emerson commended to one of the other persons that fellow was a great fellow, but I just can't remember his name. He had a beautiful soul, but I just wish I could recall his name.
Yeah.
The lost memory is a sad thing.
Right.
It cuts us off from days gone by. It strips away the treasure of the residue of past experience. It erases our personal history and leaves us unaccountable pages blank. Not long ago, I was visiting in the home of one of our delightful older members, and periodically in the course of the conversation, she would stop and she would say, and she would remark, "I've forgotten what I was about to say." After this happened several times, she confessed that it's so humiliating to have your memory go bad. Certainly, it is unfortunate, confident, and in all of the embarrassing things for me not to be able to remember.
Right.
Yet, without a doubt, for some people, the failure of memory is largely unavoidable. This is not always the case because sometimes we forget because we neglect that which we have done comes to us because of intensive power that we have to those who have preceded us. We center all of our attention around our day right now. We act as though the past is that all it is the past.
Right.
And the past is some shabby thing that can be safely cast off and left behind like a worn old pair of shoes.
Yeah.
Pray with me just a moment.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And so today, in this Memorial Day, we look at several things as I quickly run to the middle of this message. Joshua says here in the 4th chapter that as the foot of the priest
He said.
touched the ground,
Right.
the waters resided and they were able to go across.
Right.
Now, where are you going with this passage? 40 years prior to Joshua making this statement, Moses made the same statement about God. Moses says as he stood at the Red Sea, Pharaoh behind him, and as they held his arm up, it says as he stood there, God allowed the waters to pass.
Right.
And here it is, 40 years later, Joshua has finally made it to the promised land, and God does the same thing. The reason that our memory is important for God, first of all, is because of God's consistency.
Right.
If God got you out of trouble last week, he can do it this week. If God, we used to sing a song that my God can do anything but fail.
Right.
And when we look at building our memorial, it's important to build on the past so you can live in the present that you may enjoy the future.
Right.
Let me say it again. Somebody didn't catch that. You think all life is what you are living in and where you at in 2016? I beg you the difference. It is important to know what your grandmother did.
Right.
For you to understand how to act right now. The little boy was a Boy Scout, and he got away from his group, and he got lost, and he checked his pocket and passed it, didn't have his compass on it.
Right.
And he knew a sense of direction, but he was afraid he would get lost in life.
Right.
And so therefore, as he began to find his way into the forest, he would take a piece of clothing off of his body and he would wrap it around a tree.
Right. Right.
He would go a little further and he would see a tree limb and he would bend it and break it in a way to remind him.
Yeah.
He would move on a little further and he would take some rocks and he would form them into arrows that would point a certain direction.
Right.
He got to a point to where he took his shoestrings off of his shoes and tied them on a tree that he could get as far as he went, because he knew as far as he was going, he would one day have to find his way back. Somebody ought to catch this for a moment. He made a memorial along the way as he was making his journey, trying to find his way home.
Yeah.
He said, why are you leaving these stones here?
these 12 stones that you got sitting, why are you making markers in life? I wish Deacon Sims was here this morning. He would tell us that we ought not be bridge burners. Because somebody helped you across, you ought to help somebody. Let me help you build your own memorial this morning. Don't build one for me, because many of us build memorials simply off of the good things that has happened in our life. Let me tell you, there was some bad stuff behind good memorials. There was some memorials that are built that are greater than the person that we are memorializing. And in fact of the matter, our new definition of memorial doesn't have anything to do with Memorial Day. Some of y'all just glad to get a day off work. This memorial, this memorial that we're building out of people placing themselves into our lives. He said, remember, you're just a new float in an old parade. Remember that there was somebody else had to pave the way for you. For you to be and get to where you are today.
Right.
So I want you to understand, you got to build your own Memorial Day. I see the prodigal son. He is about to eat with swine.
Right.
He's a long way from home.
Yeah.
But he began to build his Memorial Day. He said, how many servants does my father have, that they have bread enough to spare? And here I am starving to death. He said, I'm going to build my memorial. And his memorial had a bridge on it. And the bridge took him back home. You don't believe me? There was some men that caught a woman, they said. And the woman was committing adultery. Jesus said, come here, all of you peeping toms. Come here, all of you freaky people. You got to look at somebody else having sex. There's something wrong with you. So he said, I want you to build a memorial right now. The one who is without sin cast the first stone. The Bible said everybody dropped a rock and began to run. He was building a memorial. Every time you set your baby down and teach them, now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. You are building a memorial. Let me tell you, one of the greatest things that somebody ever told me in life was that I was pulled on the side of the road and had a flat. A friend came and helped me out, and I reached in my pocket to try to give him some money, and he said, no, what I want you to do is start a memorial here. The next time you get somebody else getting in a bind, you reach out and you help them. I'm not going to shout you this morning, but I want you to know that we are building our own memorial. How people perceive you is up to you. What you leave as a legacy is up to you. The appreciation for times gone bad is diminishing because we don't remind our young people. Now, we wasn't always sitting at the restaurant looking at a white man across the table. Our Memorial Day is diminishing because we don't remind our children that some of y'all had to walk 4 and 5 miles to school and they can't walk a block. We have to build a memorial that says that I was here for a few years. And when I was here, I did the best that I made some mistakes. I didn't get it all right, but my memorial said that I was here for a while, and if I could help somebody as I pass along, if I could cheer somebody with a word of song, then my living would not be. That's my Easter speech. If you're here this morning You're getting ready to start your Memorial Day. Some of y'all gonna be barbecuing. Some of y'all gonna be thank you barbecuing. And you will be enjoying your family and your time off. Stop just for a moment.
Yes, sir.
And check out the memorial that you're building. Is it a raggedy looking something? Is it already about to fall to pieces and you ain't dead yet? Or are you building your hopes on things eternal? Every time I look at Amen, that's my memorial. Long after I'm gone, he's gonna tell y'all about a preacher named Amen. My memorial is my grandbabies. When I look at them, they'll say, I remember my pawpaw. That's a memorial.
Right.
Some of us are so selfish that we won't allow anybody else to love us and to receive love from us. That will be your memorial. Bow your heads wherever you